Welcome to our 8th lesson in our unit where we're talking about early Asian civilizations. Today, we're going to move on to a newer country in the early Asian civilizations, and we're going to be talking about the Yellow and Yangtze rivers. But before we get into our read aloud, let's go through our vocabulary words. And remember, as I read them, you repeat them after me. Fertile, source, represent, unjust, resembles, custom, conquer. Which of these words means to look like something else? So if I want to talk about how my brothers and I look like each other, what word would I use to help write that sentence? That's right, I'd use the word resembles. Which one of these words means not fair? Unjust. Remember that word un means not. So we're moving on in our read aloud. We're moving away from ancient India and moving towards China. But before we do, let's talk about why do civilizations build along rivers or water source? Why do they do that? How were these rivers formed? What does the mountains have to do with them? And then, so we're going to move into our ancient Chinese civilizations. Before we do, what 5 basic characteristics or components make up a civilization? Remember, those 5 components are jobs, leaders, writing, religion, and cities. What were 2 major rivers we have learned about so far? Yeah, remember we learned about the Indus and Ganges River. We've talked about why they are important. So we're going to move into China, and as you can see, the 2 rivers are right here, the Yellow and the Yangtze River. Both really long rivers, important to the ancient civilization at that time. And we're going to learn more facts about those rivers today. After today's reading, you should be able to explain the importance of rivers to the development of the Chinese civilization and show an understanding of the word sorrow. So I want you to listen carefully today to find out why the Yellow and the Yangtze rivers were so important to ancient China. The Tigris, Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, and the Ganges. When you hear these names, what images do you see in your mind, or what do you see in this picture? What do they all have in common? Yeah, they're all rivers. And what is so special about the rivers? Yeah, these ancient rivers supplied the water needed for the world's very first civilizations. Along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates in ancient Mesopotamia, people worked together to grow food, build cities, and develop a way of writing. Pyramids were built up and down the Nile River in Egypt, and in Asia, the Indus and the Ganges, snaking their way through India and Pakistan, have long been worshipped for their life-giving waters. Today, you are going to learn about the Yellow River and the Yangtze River, 2 more major rivers that belong to this special group. These 2 rivers divided by the high snow-capped Biancala Mountains, and they are the 2 longest rivers in China. They too are places where early civilizations began. More people live in the Yellow and Yangtze River valleys today than in any other region in the world. High up the mountains where the Yellow River begins, its waters are very clear. But as it travels its long route through the high plateaus or high, wide, flat lands, of the Biancala Mountains, its color changes. Look at the picture to see if you can guess what makes the water turn yellow. What do you think? What do you think makes the water turn yellow? Rain and wind wash the silt, a fine mixture of soil, sand, and clay, from the mountain into the river, making it a muddy yellow. As this happens, the river bottom rises, and if the river bottom rises, what do you think happens to the water? Yes, the water rises too, and then what happens as the waters rise? The river overflows and floods. Does this sound familiar? What other rivers have you learned about that flood? Is this flooding a good or bad? Well, it's both. You have already learned that importance of flooding to create fertile land for crops. But when a large river like the Yellow River floods, they can also destroy whole cities. For this reason, the Chinese have given the Yellow River two nicknames. Man, crazy to have two nicknames around. One nickname was Mother River, and the other, China's Great Sorrow. Sorrow is the feeling of deep sadness caused by a loss of something or someone. The Yellow River often caused China's people sadness and pain when it flooded, but also happiness because it helped grow crops. The Yangtze River, China's longest river, lies to the south of the Yellow River, where the temperature is much warmer and flooding is less of a problem. The Yangtze River is named after an ancient place that was near the river. Its fertile valley is sometimes called China's Rice Bowl because its temperate climate, or climate that's not extremely hot or really cold throughout the year. It's perfect temperature all year. The temperate climate is perfect for growing rice. Wheat and millet used in making bread and noodles grow well along the Yellow River. But rice, the main crop of China, had its beginnings along the Yangtze River. Together, these two river valleys form the country's greatest food-producing region. The Chinese have always been inventors. Many of their inventions changed the way people farmed, making the river valley more and more productive. For example, the ancient Chinese invented seed planting instead of scattering seeds on top of the earth. They developed seed drills used for planting seeds in ordered rows. They invented iron plows and harness so that horses or oxen could easily pull the plows. And to get water from the lowland to the crops planted on the high ground, the Chinese invented a pump to irrigate the fields. All of these inventions, a lot of them are still used today. I mean, when you go drive by a cornfield, they're not just scattered, corn isn't scattered all over. You can see the different rows of corn and stuff. Because they were inventive people, farming became easier for Chinese people. More and more nomadic people, or people who have no set home, moved often to find food, began to settle permanently along the banks of two great rivers where food was abundant. Then the same thing happened in China that happened in Mesopotamia, in Egypt, and India. Cities emerged. Many separate cities and areas sprang up along the banks of the rivers, which led by a powerful king. The kings ruled over the people, much like the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. The people built walls, houses, and temples. They made tools and weapons of wood, stone, bronze, and iron. They also built boats. And with the invention of copper coins, they began to trade with one another up and down both rivers. As they traded and farmed, the Chinese continued inventing new tools and systems. One of these was writing, which you will soon learn about. An important trademark of any civilization. So, which country are the Yellow and Yangtze River located? Why have the Chinese nicknamed the Yellow River Mother River and China's Great Sorrow? Why do the Chinese sometimes call the Yangtze River Valley China's Rice Bowl? What special jobs do you think people might have had along the rivers? Our word work word for today is the word sorrow. What sound is the OW vowels? Oh, before we do that, let's repeat the word after me. I'm going to read the word sorrow. You repeat it. Sorrow. Now, here's our first question. What sound is OW making at the end of this word? That's right. OW is making the O sound. When you see a double letter in the word, do you say that sound twice? No, remember when we learn about double letters in words, it's only saying that sound once. What do you think this word means? So sorrow means is pain or suffering caused by a loss. Alex felt deep sorrow when his little kitten was missing for 3 days. How can someone express or show sorrow? Yeah, sometimes they show sorrow by crying, with a sad face, a frown. So let's go through our map quest for today. And what I want you to do is on your own, I want you to highlight where the mountain range is, and then where the Yellow and Yangtze River are coming from. I hope you enjoyed learning about the ancient Chinese civilizations. We're going to continue learning about these civilizations with a really cool one that I think a lot of you are going to find very interesting. So we'll see you next time.